Cool. Yeah, yeah. So, hi, good morning from the very rainy and cloudy Thessaloniki, Greece. Thank you very, very much for being here. Uh, this was a challenge because when I first thought that I would like exactly all of you to be in this meeting, I never thought that this would actually happen. So, thank you very much for this. As I already told you, unfortunately, Vasya Magula won't be able to join, uh, but maybe in the future, in future conversations. Um, as you might know, already know, I'm Thomas Diafas. I'm the founder of the Thessaloniki Arts Festival. I currently live in Arnhem, the Netherlands. I'm graduating from the Masters of Performance Practices. Uh, I'm researching how to combat anxiety and depression in arts education through community work. Uh, and since I mentioned community, this is why I also thought that there is a need for a community project in Arnhem, same as in Thessaloniki. I detected the same challenges, the same needs, the same issues. Uh, you might know that ArtEZ is a very safe space. There are many queer subjects. There is a lot of diversity. Everybody feels welcome. However, there was a lot conversation around what about Arnhem, the city per se? What about the Netherlands? What about the world outside the art? What about the world outside education? What can we do? And this is where I said, okay, this is a question I already had before. And this is why I started a queer festival in Greece, not just to present artworks from uh, queer artists, but to start a conversation with the actual city of Thessaloniki and to see what the needs of the people, queer people or not queer people, any form of diversity, what are the commonalities, what are the things that have in common, what are the needs that we have in common. And this is where we started with improvising with spaces of allies who want to uh, present some work or want to host conversations. And then, of course, there was this big research project with the local church, schools, and police back in 2019, where also some of the participants of this conversation were presenting their work. And yeah, I'm not going to say a lot about the Thessaloniki Arts Festival. I'm going to say about the need that I personally had while moving to Arnhem is to really have a space where diversity is being discussed theoretically, but practically in a city like Arnhem, mostly because of the presence of the School of Fine Arts, ArtEZ. And I think that it was missing. We were having conversations about diversity and queer issues and inclusion and discrimination inside the building, let's say, but not that much in a space outside the building. Um, so, I mean, the artist or the art student. So, this is for me an invitation to create a bridge between ArtEZ and outside ArtEZ. This is why some of you who are already active in the Netherlands are here. And yeah, I think it's time for me to uh, introduce you if you feel uh, like it, or if you want to say already something. I think I might have to unmute you in case you want to speak. This is what the previous host told me. So I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. If you want to say hi, good morning, or if you want to introduce yourself, it would be even better so we can hear your voices.
Hello. I guess I'm the first brave person to introduce myself and say hi. My name is Agape Harmani, and I am an artist and researcher based in London. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. We've collaborated with Thomas for Thessaloniki Queer Arts Festival, where I showed a video performance. And I'm really happy to be invited again to talk about this topic of what is diversity. I still don't know. Hope I've learned today. Thank you, Thomas.
Shall I read the second one? Okay, my name is Margriet Leest. I'm a project leader at ArtEZ for inclusion and diversity. We would like to have diversity and especially inclusion felt by everyone visiting ArtEZ buildings. As you might know, ArtEZ is situated in 3 different cities in the Netherlands. It's Arnhem, Enschede, and Zwolle. And there, each city has 2 different locations, and we really would like to have it felt by everyone. You are included. You are welcome to be here. Whatever, if you are a student or one of our colleagues or even a visitor, the moment you step into the buildings, it must be felt that you are welcome. You know, it doesn't matter where you come from, how you look like, what you have put on or whatever. Just be there, just be yourself. And that is diversity, including everyone who is diverse, because all of us have some kind of diversity in us, with us, or whatever. So be welcome. Thank you. And originally I'm from Aruba, the Caribbean. I was born and raised there. And I came to the Netherlands to study to become a teacher of Dutch and English. And after some years, I got more into discrimination, racism, and which resulted in inclusion and diversity. Thank you.
Well, 3 is my lucky number, so let's take it from here. My name is Ricardo Brouwer. I live in Arnhem. I'm not originally from Arnhem. I'm from Friesland, which is way up north. Since a year, I'm the chairperson of COC, Midden Gelderland, which is the COC. Some of you might know it. It's the oldest still existing LGBTQ plus advocacy organization in the world. We're very proud of that. And our branch has been established in 1953. So we turned 70 this year. And myself, I take a very activist approach on my chairpersonship, because I think it's about damn time to change something, because we were the leader in the world when it came to LGBTQ plus rights. But now we're just going down the ladder, and that has to stop. So I'm very happy to be invited here. Thank you.
I can go next. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Provenzano. I'm a visual artist. I am from Venezuela, but nowadays I live in Lisbon. But right now I'm in Latvia in a festival, so talking about these movements. Yes, well, I will talk about diversity, but inside my work, my artistic practice, which I think that is a point of view about the different mediums to use in my work, and how I make like this parallel following like migration of medium and migration process that I'm living with all this movement. Well, I met Thomas in Thessaloniki Queer Art Festival in one edition that I applied and I was selected. And the next year I participated as one of the curators, because there was a team. So I'm very happy to be here sharing and also learning from you all. Thank you.
So I think it's your turn, Anna. So we can wait.
While we wait, I would like to read you all something. I asked a friend who's not in the art world or in the corporate world, another world where the word diversity is quite popular. And I asked that friend what he thinks is diversity. His response was this, and I would like to share it with you. The first thing that comes in mind is a group of people, old people, young people, different ethnicities, whatever can differentiate people. Maybe there's one representative of each. If everybody identifies as somebody, there will be people from different tribes that are diverse too. From nature's point of view, diverse flora or fauna, which appear in different ways in climates. These are comparable to the human world. Companies have a microclimate of diversity, but it's different to nature. The problem in the human world is that humans decide who is diverse, why, and what that means.
I really like that last sentence. People decide. Yes. Yeah.
So maybe we can, until solve the problem, maybe Margriet, you can say what is diversity for you, or what is, since it's like you work on a project called diversity and inclusion, right? So maybe you can say, how do you approach diversity, or what your goals are, or how do you personally, or how you as a project leader of ArtEZ, diversity and inclusion understand the topic?
Is your question what is diversity for myself and for others? For myself, it started when I was being discriminated because of my color, being here in the Netherlands. And then, so then I realized about being different in a group of people. While looking at them, they all look different. They all are different because of what you choose to put on that morning, whatever your choices are. And at the same time, I miss the respect for that, for being individual, for being original as you are. So that is diversity for me, respecting everyone, whatever they put on, they look like, and things like that. Respect each other. And that it is for me, and that is what I would like to include for ArtEZ. And talking to many colleagues and students at ArtEZ, and with colleagues, I mean everyone who works at ArtEZ. It doesn't matter your position for me. I feel they all respect each other. And that is also something students tell me. But Margriet, here at ArtEZ, here within the building, we all respect each other. But the moment we step out of the entrance, the main door, then there's a different world, because then as a woman playing the drums, for example, a female student playing the drums at a concert, afterwards people come to her and tell her how good you are at playing drums for a woman. And those 3 words at the end breaks down a student, because she has been playing all the time for hours. So students make this remark of not being accepted as a woman, as playing as a female drummer or a female bass guitar player. But those are things, so they feel safe in the buildings, but outside the buildings, the world is different. The world looks different at them. And why should that be? Why is that? And so within the building, yes, I think, but still, though being so positive about accepting each other, respecting each other, there are still things happening within the building, which really tells me there's still a way to go. There are still things to make clear, to start talking about, because it's not completely safe. It's there's still work to do here. Yeah, be more open and to talk about the subject, go more into depth with the subject. And I also think it's very important to have the subject, the theme, inclusion and diversity, being heard more often, being felt by activities, so all people can feel it with their senses. And then to get back to talking, to conversations about it. So that is what I'm going to do. Short, small activities and some bigger events, so that people, all of us, can feel it. And then start talking again about it, and make sure it's in the program, make sure people talk about diversity and inclusion in the canteen when drinking a cup of coffee, or have it on the agendas of meetings, or it just pops up, oh yes, has Margriet been talking to you? It's about diversity again, but now the topic about diversity is faith, religion, faith, religion in artwork of students, because I'm also working on that with one pastor in Zwolle. Or is it about, the coming out day, whatever it is, but I would like people to sparkle small topics on diversity, because diversity, we all are diverse, all of us.
It's very interesting that you say that ArtEZ is a safe space, but once we leave, there are some issues, and I like that you bring this issue from society, like from the real world inside ArtEZ, and you challenge it, and you see how.
Yeah. That's why, that's also reason why I'm inviting groups, organizations who all deal with the topic, get them inside the building, visit us. And I have had quite some conversations with organizations in the building. I do like a guiding tour, a small one in the building. Some of them have never visited the building before, never visited ArtEZ before. They see the building, they see the name at the outside of the buildings, but never been inside. So I'm getting them inside the building, and so we can really talk about the matter. And, being separated is not the way. You have to get into each other, meet each other personally in one of the buildings, and so they can take it out again. So then we get outside and inside combined and interacting. Yeah.
And what can we say if we don't speak about club church, about being a space for safety and getting together, right? Hello, good morning, Anna.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Wow. It feels a little bit like a Eurosong contest. Sorry for that. I needed to restart the computer, as I need a new license to install Zoom, whatever that meant. Anyways, good morning. I'm Anna Rodermond. I'm a club manager of Club Church, working there since 2011. And we're now this year actually existing 15 years. With the existence of 15 years, you really start to create history. And from out that, I can see how our club started off as a man-only cruise place, becoming now an inclusive queer space, safe space to all kinds of sex-positive outreach in the LGBTQ community. That's actually a very, very for me, it's a really interesting point to look back into the history of a business as we run it, to see how we, from a very, because one needs to take this, like there's a long history of how gay men meet each other into buildings and spaces for either equality or either sex positive movement or wishes, so to say. Now we come really in a time where I noticed that a building like us or a company like us could not longer hold on an era where you program man-only parties, as there's an enormous wish to enter these kind of buildings to celebrate together and feel strongly part of a community that collaborates within a building. So all in all, you can say that us, me, okay, managing a club, it's truly almost a institutional house where people want to gather and feel adapted to say like, hey, this is what we're stating for, this is where we commit to, and this is our family, or how we want to celebrate our community. And with that, we need a building where we can look back to. That's the spot. That's where we are coming together. And that's where the ideological thinking is created or embedded. And with that, we really need to set up a program that became more and more inclusive and take out the classic idea of male cruising, male only parties to a much higher standard of, well, for instance, trends. What would be like, if you think from out of a group that would be man only gay, that's the first one. Then who adds up to that? Then you go to trans men. Then you go to people who identify themselves as male. Okay, then you have that hobble to say. But then you want to move on, because we started noticing that female also had questions towards our parties or what we celebrate, and why could they not collaborate? And then we needed to think like, okay, what does it mean to business to create parties that sort of uses, so to say, ingredients out of the male sex parties to all kinds of sex, out from a sex positive perspective. And through the time, we became very aware and knowledge that we needed to open those doors for all the groups, but opposite of that, create the same kind of safety that we, as man only, already embedded for such a long time. Now, to keep a long story short, this is sort of where we are now today. And with that, you can see that our program is still all based on sex positivity, but shows an enormous priority on different perspective out of the LGBT community. And with that, all of those parts or communities find a spot within the same building and collaborate, so to say.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I'm thinking that what I found really interesting is when we were discussing about club church, about your background, which is, well, your background in fine arts. And I was thinking like how, for me, like arts and this need for social change goes always together. However, art is not being taught as such. You know, if you want to have an impact on society, you go for social science, let's say, you know. But your entry point was completely different, you know. And I'm thinking, how did you take the decision to have such an a program related to performances or drag shows or the workshops that you had parallel? I remember. When I first came and I met Jennifer Hopeless, they were all getting ready to have workshops in Amsterdam North to some minority groups to inform them about all these subjects. How did you go from, let's say, allow me to say about from like you started from a club, just a club, you know, like how did you take the decision to create that a program, artistic and
Yeah.
activist program, you know, like with workshops and educational program allow me
Yeah.
to say.
Well, we as a club understood that what you need to know is that Club Church is actually quite a small location and a building. We host 180 people, and with that and the program as we have, it's all very embedded in that place. And we were wondering how we could express ourselves in a more public domain, taking out something of that club into the world, so to say. And then very quickly already, we sort of start creating this house, the House of Hopeless, that was sort of connected to ballroom housing, uses that same kind of ingredients. But with that, we knew that if we would have a group of performers who have a very own identity, but embed our ideological movement or thinking or our activism, we could sort of take it out of the building and start performing throughout the city or on other locations or with other and really companies as well, and telling actually what we consider is so important to our community from out of a sex positive perspective as emancipation towards the LGBT community. And we did this through creating all these performance artists who had a very strong own character and would be under the umbrella of the House of Hopeless, living, so to say, in our business, in our club. And from out of there, so you can find them, we have certain parts who completely connected to them, or vice versa. One could truly approach us and say, hey, can you come to us? And this would be a nice way to integrate and always reflect. So if you would have them, and for instance, you now see them a lot. We work a lot with the Stedelijk Museum. I mean, that's a big institute, but they sort of were very keen to understand what our politics were in a certain way, you know, how we created our IDs, our logic IDs and activism. And they wanted to have something of that. So they asked our performances to come to them. On the other hand, because they are there, they immediately can explain or feel the adaptation of Club Church on that other location. Now it's like Stedelijk Museum, but it was also the openings of AIDS 2000 to 2018. There are several other big companies who sort of want to know what goes on in this world. What's this inclusive ID, idealistic ID, and what can we adapt from that? We sort of make friends with them. By becoming friends, they start listening to us, and suddenly you have this club spreading throughout in a very comfortable kind of, well, call it a fungi, you know, something like that, and try to get your fingers into their culture and telling something of us. And indirect, you're telling something about your club. And indirect, you can talk about sexuality and the freedom and the interest to sexuality of from out of an LGBT perspective. Yeah, that's how we use our art to start, of course, a dialogue between a conversation, excuse me, between a business as we are and outside business as we want to be.
I want to go to Ricardo, and I thought maybe if someone wants to say something before that, just let me know, because I thought that many of my friends or colleagues who were hearing that I was going to Club Church to have fun and etc. They told me, why do we always have to go to Amsterdam to have fun, such kind of fun? Why don't we have like everyone who's graduating immediately runs out of Arnhem and goes to Amsterdam or to Rotterdam, because being an artist or being a queer subject means that you live there, actually. And I wonder, like, since you've been like active in Arnhem and you know the challenges and you know the conversations, thankfully we're having a queer collective now that they're actually starting a space So it's going to be more like an actual space with activities, artistic activities, or other. Um, so, how do you experience diversity, and you personally, and your collective and COSA? How do you uh, how do you tackle these issues? And maybe if you want to say, why do we have to go to Amsterdam or to Rotterdam, and why isn't there like something like that in Arnhem, like based on your experience?
A lot of questions, but I think we still have an hour, so that comes. It's all been okay. Um, let's start with Queer Collective Arnhem, because I think they're doing great work, and as COC, we are really happy to facilitate them in what they are doing, because when I started my chairpersonship in a week, it's exactly 1 year ago, I said we have to change our role within the community. We were always some sort of leader, but I think the community can lead itself. So we can be more like the platform of the community and just give them the wind beneath their wings to fly, you know, and to facilitate a new collective as Queer Collective Arnhem is very important, because those are people from within the community. Well, I'm from within the community as well, but in a different role, but they are coming from within the community, and they felt a need for a safe space, which we cannot provide at this moment because of the lack of money we have. So money is a big problem for also when you look to like the gay bars. We only have one in Arnhem, one official. Then we have Steamworks, which is the gay sauna, talking about sex positivity. But we are now hosting a lot of activities once, twice, sometimes more times a week throughout the city. So we're working with a lot of partners which aren't maybe always queer themselves, but they want to provide a safe space. So we are creating small safe spaces throughout the city. But I know Amsterdam is like a bigger city, so they have more to provide. And Amsterdam always has been like a center of the community in the Netherlands, but we can be a center ourselves if we want to. And I think the will that we want to is getting stronger and stronger. So that's a very good thing, I think. What is diversity to myself? I was really happy with the words of Margriet. She said, we are all diverse, all of us, we are. I think myself personally, being raised as a gay kid in Friesland with my father is from Indonesia, so I know all I'm, how do you say it, diverse myself as well. I think diversity is a given fact. We are all different. So we are. For me, the key is in inclusion. There's a saying, and it says like diversity is to being invited to a party, and then inclusion is being invited to dance. But I think we have to take it further. Inclusion is also that you hear that your dance is of great value. So it's going even further than being invited to dance. And I think that's the key. Just you belong with us, and you are, we value you. And that's I think that's very important. So that's what we are working on through several projects.
I have a question. I like your extension of being invited and being invited to dance as well. But I was wondering about the word value. Do we have to value each other to accept each other? That's my question to you.
No, more like value that you...
I understand what you mean, but the word value is something I was wondering about.
I can imagine. Maybe I mean it like we don't have to rate you or something, but we just have to. I think we have to be open to each other to reach the perfect level of acceptance of each other. We have to be curious to each other, and we want to know more about each other, and we want to, and just like, yeah, that's what I mean with value. We have to give it to each other, and we are open and accepting to each other. That's
respect
what
respect, accept, adopt, and adapt.
Exact. That's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I just heard an invitation for organizations to come to ArtEZ.
Yes, please. You're very much welcome. Of course.
Welcome.
I'm very much familiar with COC in Zwolle, as I live in Zwolle, and I was a counselor here in Zwolle, and I'm very much familiar with Helene from COC. So yes, Ricardo, please.
Yes, I would love to. Helene is amazing, and I'm very happy that you are already in contact with the COC, and so yes. I'm very happy to come. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I just wrote down your name, so you will be invited.
So thank you very much for this. I'm thinking because I think it's that because one conversation takes me to the other person, and now Max, I think I'm thinking of you. Of course, I'm thinking, of course, about Agape's project, Performative Colonialism, and I'm thinking of like how this conversation, that what we're saying, and the strategic plans that we have with our project, yes, lead to equal communities, etc. And we really like to promote equality, but I'm constantly thinking of like how dangerous this can be in the wrong hands, how some people are like capitalizing this conversation, these arguments, and etc. So maybe we can go like a bit later, because I really wanted to discuss about this, because of course you already know what happened in Greece a couple of days ago. So I woke up with this news and I was getting ready for this conversation, and I said, okay, how can I start this conversation with this shipwreck, like in the television? Like, what is the position of my concerns in the whole, like, total? So this is, I allow me to share this concern that I woke up with this. I don't want to lead your lecture, your topic, Max, but I really wonder how you understand diversity in Europe, how you understand diversity in Venezuela, because your work, and this is how I was introduced to your work is a direct reference to what happens in Venezuela, how your identity is formed here or there. And of course, feel free to say whatever you want, but I would really like to hear from you how you understand diversity and how you understand diversity through your work.
Yes, I was listening to all of you, and just like my thoughts about diversity is more than giving an answer. I will just talk about what keywords, and I will link them to my process as individual process. And yes, when we think about diversity, the word that comes is like differences. We are different. Well, coming from a country like Venezuela, that we have like a lot of influence from different countries, was like in the 16, 17, receiving like a lot of immigrants, and we are like really talking about race. We are like pretty mixed, and I grew up in a family that I had like half of my family, they were Italian, and the other half of my family, they were like, like local from Venezuela. So I grew up with this sense of diversity from the race point of view. And to me, it was something that was always like reflecting in nature, and was like very natural process to deal with different type of people. So I think that each of us, we have like our own story and our background, and I think that based on interactions, that my work focus also on interactions, sometimes with objects, sometimes with people, is that is when we realize about our differences and based on our interactions, we can like establish some bridges between this difference of us, you know, like because it's how we get to relate each other. By, okay, could be like by sex positive, it could be by I was thinking also when Anne was talking about performance art, that is like a medium that is very fluent and has this nature of being sometimes political, sometimes like in this activism. So I think that this, for example, talking about performance art could be like a medium like very fluent to, you know, like open interactions between us and see our differences and be like conscious about this diversity. And also, well, in my case, having this notion of diversity since my family, that is like the core when you grew up and all the stuff, then reflected to a country and its reality and complex that could be, because we are living like a deep crisis. And there really sometimes when I'm here in Europe, like, you know, like a different continent, we have like some kind of conditions that we can talk about queerness like more openly, but it's not happening this in my country, you know, like we are still like fighting for, you know, like to open more this based on laws and all the stuff, but we don't have like a structure, we don't have like a this way to get support, you know, like so it's very difficult to deal with these different realities. And this generates, of course, these layers of meanings, because sometimes I want to create some works that could be related to the context of Venezuela and establish one bridge here in Europe. Sometimes it's like a challenge for my individual process. And yes, it's trying to, okay, talking from here, but also thinking about there, because there we are having like, you know, like situations that is the risk, your own risk. And coming back again to performance art and all the stuff, I think that body is an entity that is like diverse itself. And yes, it touches this vulnerability. So this is like how the risk is reflected in these countries where we don't have like this type of structures or movement are not so developed. It's happening, but yeah, we still have like a lot of work to do. There's like a lot of work to do there. But to me, it's interesting to have like this open perception from this side and try and somehow from my individual process talk about the experience, because it's more like a transit, you know, like, and as with this migration reality in your process, you get a lot of knowledge, but at the same time you like left behind a lot of stuff. So it's a try. What I mean is that I'm always trying to keep like this balance between the things that I'm doing and the things that are happening in my country. For example, for trans laws and all the stuff, they don't get like any type of support in my country by laws or by conditions, or even the health system. You know, like it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist even for a straight person in this macho culture system notion, less for a queer or open sex positive person. So yes, my reflection is based on this. Like it's like I see like both sides of the coin, you know, like, and it's talking about diversity that also, and to close a little bit, and our differences and the inclusion that could be like the result to try to find a way. Yes, it's like I'm trying to find ways to, you know, like can somehow bring something to my context. Like that is like what we are living in my country actually. Okay, more or less about this.
I recognize a lot of that because I'm from Aruba, so close to Venezuela. Our culture resembles each other a bit, quite a lot, I think. So the macho culture, not accepting other kind of genders, and makes it difficult for people there. But even if they come to Europe, those persons are very much divided. Like I'm being discriminated for my color, I'm being discriminated for my gender. I have to work hard to be accepted. Where do I have to go? Where could I go to get more accepted? So it's quite a difficult situation.
Yes, and sometimes the solution talking about migration is like, okay, you have to migrate. You have to run away from this location because you don't have the conditions to, like to be accepted or to have like a normal life, like that. It's like we all are like looking for somehow.
You're constantly hiding in a way.
Yes, it's like very like under, but really, really under movement. Because there are movements. It's not. I'm not saying that they don't exist. They are, but it's very under, like low profile, because you're on risk. So this is another reality. Talking about these conditions.
And Max, how do you, or you, Margriet, how does this experience shape directly or indirectly what you're doing with your projects? Because I'm thinking of like diversity, for example, in Venezuela, Aruba, or the Dominican Republic, for example, where my family comes from, is experienced in a very specific way. But in Europe, Europe is not a paradise. But since we're all deciding to be somehow like project managers or artists, how does this experience from this background is shifting the projects that we run, or how's the way we understand diversity or inclusion? Does this maybe change it? Because being a European, let's say, since we said everyone is a diverse, a European subject is completely in Europe, and being like, for example, LGBTQI is different than being a migrant as well, and a person of different color, and blah, 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 blah. So is it, are you like, did you understand that you're proposing something new? Is it something, or not new, something different, something that is due to this experience that you had? Or do you
Yes,
wish?
is what I meant with the layers of meanings, and I think that right now with my research, like my big challenge is try to find like bridges or point of connection between my reality, like my point of view, and of course not being in my country, that I can see like the difference of the work that I was producing in Venezuela and now here. Is different because it's from the distance, and when you're living like the crisis directly, your works can turn very like, or more openly political, like more, but now it's more from the metaphors and the points of connections that I can establish here. For example, the piece that I'm going to present here in the festival tomorrow is based on what's happening in the Amazonian forest, and it's the border between Brazil and Venezuela. And there is this reality of the illegal extraction of gold that are the garimpos, like, so living in Portugal, I got to know more Brazil than living in Venezuela. This is a reality that I want to talk. So I found this a point of connection to talk here in Europe and also in a country as far as I can about this reality, okay? What's happening in the Amazonian forest, destruction of gold and all the stuff, but at the same time, as a queer person or sex positive, there is this reality and about this interaction man to man about the golden shower, for example. So I wanted to find there like a point of connection between all these realities, you know, and it's about a metaphor, it's about an action. So I was interested in, you know, thanks to the crisis, like everything is focused on all the people that are leaving the country, but I was interested in the people that are getting into the country, but it's in this border of Brazil and Venezuela, because they're getting into, it's a border. At the end, they go in, out, doesn't matter, but they're going into the territory to extract gold, you know, like a benefit. So I was like trying to find points of connection between all these realities that are happening, you know, like, and are happening in my life. And it's the experience that I have from being a Venezuelan living in Portugal that has a relation with Brazil, that is like a gay man that has interaction with men from Brazil, even in Portugal. So it's like all of this happening at the same time. Is an example that I'm doing right now, like as a research.
Yeah, really interesting that what you're saying, that coming to Europe gave you access to your neighbor country more than actually being there. This is nice. I don't know if Margriet wants to say something or somebody else. Before going to
Well, for me, it's more like I know the situation on the island. I have relatives who are gay and how their lives can be. But also they also enjoy life when they meet each other. So there are clubs now, but they are still not accepted within the family or without or outside the family. So that's quite hard. I have great connection with them all the time, and I love having that. But I also hear about their hunting, hiding, wanting their wants. And here in the Netherlands, I know how difficult, how more difficult it is to realize that you can live the life you can, you can arrange for yourself, but you still have your history, which you take with you, which makes it difficult for you to be open. So for me, it demands more time, more interaction for getting these people open up to me and to join and interact with others. And to be open to talk about this topic and to join us to make it better in the world for all of us. Yeah. So more demands, yeah, to get them into joining us to make the world better.
Yeah, a metaphor would be the world as a club church. Would be like as a dance floor at the club church, right? You know, like well, we don't need any more safe spaces. You know, we don't need safe space anymore because the actual world is
yeah. That would be idealistic, great, but I can see and know that it's all about emancipation. It's not a given thing. It's something that is very sensitive for the political statement within the country. And as we all know, through whole Europe, through whole world, there's an enormous turn to the right. And this immediately inflects as well on, simply as we take it in a nutshell, as a city in Amsterdam, who definitely did not become particularly more positive towards safety, if it's for LGBTQ community, simply on the street. So there's much more violence the last few years than what I remember from when I grew up within the 90s, in the beginning of this century, where we came from a very positive, enormously hunger area to probably also post-HIV, to speak up and stand out. Now you can see that there's a very strong economic value, and then suddenly you see that if I'm focusing on man, as I am myself, a gay man, see that throughout a stronger economics, you see that these people actually withdraw from their community, becoming more individual, with that more vulnerable again, even though they have a stronger economics and position in society, losing, on the other hand, the community. And that's what you really see coming now, particularly. So on one hand, you see, for instance, throughout queer culture, that the outcome of diversity became bigger for trans people, non-binary. On the other hand, you see for gay men, I see they're much more isolated these days by, well, losing their bars, their clubs. I mean, Amsterdam, with around 2000, we had around 80 different companies that focused on gay culture. From stores to coffee shops, saunas, clubs, there are now, as we speak, around 20 left. And this means that a lot of these people do not go out, literally go out on the streets to find and meet each other. Partly because dating apps came up, partly, let's focus this, we go a bit an angle here, but there's new drugs coming up. Chemsex wasn't a big thing beginning this century. Now it's an enormous dominant factor within our community. I doubt it if it really helps our diversity to keep it strong, and I feel strongly. How shall I say that there's work out to do, so to get these people out, connected to community, and create values that create a safer and stronger place out in the city. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit complex here. If you fall, you get it? Yeah. Okay. So diversity, it's something that diversity stands on emancipation, and emancipation is a constant value that needs input, or need to be fight, or you need to be actively committed to make sure that your values will function tomorrow as well, because they're not embedded, not in our culture, not for if I speak for myself, not for my as a gay man, you know. So
can I react on you saying okay, some clubs have disappeared, you know, and they are still needed in a way, those clubs, where people can still separate themselves as groups to be possible for them to meet each other. While if we are talking about inclusion, we should all be able to go to one club or to different clubs and still mingle there. Without having a gay club, a lesbian club, a LGBTI, you know, no, just there should be different clubs where all people are able to go to and meet each other, dance with each other, and that is inclusion. I would like that to happen one day, and I will be dancing then, definitely.
So, Agape, I see that you want to go next, and I want to say, anyways, I was going to say that what Anne said takes me to Agape and our conversation with Agape. That I wrote down that we spoke about gender, about sexuality, about religion, and about race. And what I always miss in conversations about LGBTQ issues is class, and to speak about politics and economy through the perspective of economy. And how yeah, and I remember that that day in Club Church we were discussing about the future of the red light district, and there were a lot of sex workers who were speaking about the need to work. They need to have access to like to food, to pay their rent. And I'm like, yes, we discuss about more complex subjects, topics about the LGBTQ community, and some of us they don't have access to actual like food, you know. So I know that Agape has this project, Performative Colonialism, and I would ask, no matter what you want to say, I would ask you, what is diversity, what is performative, what is colonialism, and how are you going to solve all these issues with your project? Thank you.
In my head, they all connect with each other. First of all, I wanted to say a lot of things, because Max and Anne and Ricardo, everything you've mentioned really took me places in my head. For example, what Anne said about the 80 businesses in the beginning of the century being now around 20. The businesses targeted for gay or queer people. In my head, that links to my own research, performative colonialism, in the sense that, yes, there isn't a need for a gay business anymore, because what people are looking for, they can found through corporations online, in the supermarket. You can go to the supermarket, get a nice pride flag. You can go to, I don't know, a meet and greet that an online dating app has arranged, and meet people. And then living in London and being in the community, I do appreciate, the parties that would happen in like cruising areas that are obviously like open to everyone. Kind of like what Anne said about opening up the space to everyone. And that for me is where we need to go, where we need to, see what we need to see in front of us, like manifest that one day, everyone will be free, and everyone will be feeling included. But at the moment, unfortunately, I feel like diversity is being used as a token by corporates, by schools, by the media. It's used in campaigns to sell products. It's used to accept people in schools, students in schools that fit in a different category, to make the school be more diverse. But the school from the beginning is not diverse, or is not inclusive, or is not open. So using people to make itself be more diverse kind of defies the purpose. The institutions have a responsibility, especially if they are educational institutions, to start the conversations and have people like we're doing now do think tanks, panels, talk about how our feelings affect us, actually how their actions affect us, and how our mental health, for example, is not great, or we can't find work, or And then in terms of performative colonialism, performative is when you do something to show that you're doing it. Look at me, I'm giving money to this charity. Colonialism is when you, I'm thinking in Greek, so let me find the word in English. Dominate another culture, peoples, identities, and of course, profit off them. And it links to what you said, Foma, before about the shipwreck in Greece. In this case, we see that the shipwreck is in Greece has led to hundreds of people being dead, and it's at the moment being weaponized. On the one hand, the media is using the story to scare people from these countries who want to flee the dangerous countries they're from. And on the other hand, we have producing and reproducing sad stories of the victims to like clickbait or, you know. And of course, apart from this tactic in itself being colonial, what the media is doing, or what this policy of look at what happened to that person, don't come to my country because it might happen to you. We also have the West being responsible for the beginning of all of these people's tragic, stories. They have created wars, conflicts, all these human living conditions now in many countries in Asia, in Africa, are a result of what the West did 100 years ago, colonizing countries, separating countries with like a ruler. My father is from Ethiopia, so my personal knowledge of the issue is that in Ethiopia, for example, you have hundreds of tribes living under one country that the West dictated should be one country. What happens now? Loads of conflicts, wars, people living in fear, and my father's tribe is the Oromo people, and they experience, shootings in villages, kidnappings. Of course, things you would never hear in the media, because what happens in the world outside West is, not necessarily something that we care about. Hence, performative colonialism as an idea. We have so much despair, so much hate. I don't know, and it feels like we're only doing what we can do on our computer or on our look at with Black Lives Matter, for example, which was a huge movement that sent us everyone to the streets protesting and everything. And unfortunately, we're still seeing today violence and discrimination against Black people being the same as it was before George Floyd. So all these thoughts, with a hope of moving forward and achieving what Margriet said, being all in the same space and loving each other and celebrating. But unfortunately, at the moment, as Anne said, I also see the world going more far right. And World War II didn't teach people anything. And of course, it wouldn't teach anything, because in my country, Greece, I'm sure in other countries too, education is not to a standard of, all right, let's think, let's discuss. It's to a standard of learn this, you need to know this, and don't even get me started on queer stories or non-dominant stories not being talked about. I think these are all my thoughts for now. If anyone wants to step in, please do.
I think it's a good reflection of history, but which I understand and really agree with. But in another way, I think every and each baby step which is taken forward is to be applauded. I think the history can't really change the history anymore. Colonialism is there, has been there, still going on perhaps. But indeed, schools are not diverse. Organizations in the Europe are not diverse. But if they want to change that, we are possible to make baby steps in there. And I really love each baby step which we can see. I think it is very important to look at those baby steps, because otherwise we will be looking backwards very often, and we will continue doing that because it is part of taking other steps, taking other directions as well, because now we acknowledge that those were not the right steps. which are still the basis of things, but let's start on making new foundations and taking each baby step we can, try to look at the positive things we can do for the youngsters, for the young ones, the babies who are still to be born, that they won't get to hear every time again from October till January, hey, you look like Zwarte Piet in the Netherlands then, when there's Black Peter and Sinterklaas on the 5th of December. I really would like my grandchildren not to experience that. That they can all celebrate this children's festivity like a child and not asking me, what do they mean by that? And then I have to explain and then lie to them that one day it will be other. One day they won't tell you that you look like, but one day there are no questions from children anymore. Why are they telling me I'm Black? Why am I not accepted because I have two mothers or two fathers? No, I don't want children to be there. I want to take those baby steps. That's one. Thank you. But very good of you, Agape, to give me this reflection again.
Well, this is very interesting what you said, Margriet, because also most of my life depressed and full of despair. But I produce all the time, and I produce projects and platforms where people discuss. And because since I see that this situation is getting like worse and worse and worse. How can we? Maybe someone else has an opinion. And I think a queer arts festival in general might be or should be a platform for all these different voices to speak and to discuss and generate more knowledge and generate more information, generate more projects. However, I feel that what we are experiencing lately is that, for example, I'm thinking that Greece is a very particular case because it was the queer wave, let's say, was based mostly in the private initiatives or group initiatives, like in the alternative scene, the squad, or, and now, like, big institutions came and all the initiatives disappeared. So you can indeed go to the supermarket and see, like, the wash and go pride flag, but you cannot see the actual initiative that was there, in the squad some years ago. And you can see that the minister of, we don't have a minister of diversity, but let's say maybe soon we're going to have a minister of family. It was announced because there are no new babies in Greece. So we need someone to establish what a family should be. So maybe we can see in the future that we have a gay minister already. But what about actual people who live a normal life? What's happening with these people? So we have less normal people, like people having normal lives, but more right-wing politicians being pinkwashed, like say, pinkwashed. And I wonder, let's say in Arnhem, but like having like a Arnhem in mind, but in general, what would you suggest that someone should think or should tackle at the moment that they decide to create a queer arts festival here and now? Those who have like experienced Arnhem, maybe you can give a direct not solution or idea, but what do you think that like a queer platform should tackle or discuss about or bring on the surface, about society? Each one of you, like wrote some topic, and I can see already like a festival about all these topics. But what would you do if you had to curate yourself or in a group, effectively, or an exhibition or an educational program around diversity?
Well, again, I can say something about this, maybe. So like, and again, it's like how we constantly keep working, trying to get individuals to speak out by setting up workshops where we create together with Panna, always go into almost avatar building, what your queer character truly is and represents in this world, or your personal activism as from Oliver's perspective as a queer person. And somehow we sort of keep multiplying that by always looking through in the community and be very open to people that knock on our doors and say like, hey, I want to stand up and I want to show myself and tell something about myself through an avatar to become a performer. You don't have to be a very, you do not have to have the skills. You do not have to come from an art background. But we believe that staging yourself and pointing your individual you into creating a personality around you can be a reflection on society, and you bring it with you wherever you go because you are your person, you are your traveling self. To Arnhem, to Friesland, to Greece, and knocking on doors again, staging yourself. And so we have seen that a lot of the people we work with now gone again, but keep doing this in other cities by the workshops we give them to create a house, their own house, become, as we call them, mothers, creating people around them and multiplying it a little. Well, multiplying is an ugly word, but it looks almost a little bit like spreading out religion, saying like, hey, you're a personality and you can be even bigger by creating an avatar around you and staging yourself and what could be your show and what could your way of pointing out your needs through the show you give and becoming this performance artist. And this is, of course, you can constantly retake during very different stages. And, that's always what we love to do. Anyone else?
Whoever wants to go next.
What I also noticed, what I want to say to that is like, looking like from out of Amsterdam perspective, it's very criticized as well. It's like, so we have this year for the first time, we have queer pride as well. We'll break up or cut up our pride because our pride has been highly criticized as mentioned here. It's like it became multinational and it lost completely. It was gay pride that lost it. It's now pride, and it truly means, and it's a good thing. It's an inclusive idea for everyone. But you noticed it took over by a majority that just wants to have a good party, and it lost all his activism. And what you see now is that whole Amsterdam is truly like queer Amsterdam is going out. They're looking for other cities where they feel a stronger outreach. So like everybody's now going to Utrecht Pride because they feel much more seen. They go to other countries where they feel more awareness or activism going on. And they move out of Amsterdam. So
in terms of sorry, Fama, in terms of what Anne was saying, and I think also Ricardo mentioned that about moving out of and you moving out of cities or towns and going to Amsterdam or the metropolis. I think it relates to that idea of systemic homophobia, racism. Of course, you're going to go to a big city if in your city you feel alone, you don't feel included. And that's why this conversation should take part or should, be shown to people who need to, get help. Because many of us come from smaller places, so we know how it is in small villages, towns. People know each other businesses, more than in a big city. So yeah, I feel like we talk about that need to go to a big city as if it feels like a narcissistic need, but in reality, it's just a survival mechanism. Because in a big city like London, I found the community that makes me feel safe and helps me survive and be sane. So the conversation, I'm really glad this conversation is happening for Arnhem Queer Arts Festival, exactly because we need that to exist in smaller cities as well. We need to have a safe space and a community, and we should not be moving out of our villages and our towns because some people are. I don't want to say the word.
Well, exactly. This is why I put an exclamation mark and a question mark and exclamation mark next to the title for this conversation, because we were like, is that possible or is that needed? Because normally, since I started the Thessaloniki Queer Arts Festival, I saw that there are many people who were saying like, but this is not possible. Like, who is going to join? And I said, well, it's not about who is going to join. It's about creating the space. It's not about like inviting the queers to discuss about the issue. It's about the needs that we need to cover. That is, we're trying to, as I call my practice, like problem solving festival. There is a problem, so it needs to happen there. And yeah, so thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, I wonder if Ricardo can see Friesland Queer Arts Festival, or or like another queer arts festival in different places that we work remotely.
Well, a couple of years ago, they started a small pride in Leeuwarden, the city where I was born. So it's happening, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. And yes, I did it myself. I moved to a city because I didn't feel included in the towns where I was living. I'm from very small villages in Friesland, 5,000 inhabitants, so it's really small. And I still hear it in my work as a COC chairperson, that people, they are coming from towns outside of Arnhem to Arnhem because they feel more safe, or to Amsterdam, but to a city. And I was thinking, when you said, what would you like to see in a queer arts festival, Thomas? For me, what I did last year, I brought for the very first time the Pride photo exhibition. I don't know if you know it. It's an international project. I brought it for the very first time to Gelderland, to our province. And I heard last week that they want to book it for the next 3 years as well. So it will be here again. And for me, the key in that whole project is it works as a conversation starter. And for me, the key in creating acceptance is to listen to each other, to understand each other, to talk with each other. So I would love to have conversation pieces in a queer arts festival, so I can talk with a lot of people about it.
I don't know if someone else wants to add something, or so. Thank you very much for this conversation. Really, thank you. It was a need that I had to start a conversation about these issues. Inside ArtEZ, I also work in administration, and we discuss about how can we make the bubble of ArtEZ a bubble of the Netherlands, a bubble of Arnhem, a bubble, to create a utopia, or maybe how to make utopia real, and how to generate this feeling that we have the moment we open the door and we enter the building, we go to work or we go to study, to have the same feeling once we exit the building. And yeah, I would really like to thank Susan and the Snackloket that gives the opportunity to students to they fund projects. And I wish to make this conversation in Arnhem. Let's cross fingers and say that we're gonna have something like this in Arnhem in conversation. I see that Ricardo's proposal and also Anna's proposal have like this live element of like workshop, conversations, performances. You all mentioned performance art and conversation. And I will keep you updated. And let's say that everything will be fine. This is my motto this week, the last week. We have a nice summer full of ideas and sun and vitamin C. And yeah, I really like to thank you and send you energy and courage to keep doing the great things that we're doing. And yeah, let's thank you very much for, I don't know if you people want to say something, the people that are like the audience, if you want to say something. Maybe we,
I think this is a great way of starting working on awareness by listening to each other, by talking to each other, interacting, and like Ricardo said, this photo, this collection, this international collection you had to be seen, because I think this is something which has to. We started somewhere, and where would we like to go to, and how would we like to go there? So take moments to reflect, and then to continue walking, because you are building a bridge. We are all building bridges while walking over it already. So that's quite difficult, this building, but I'm pretty sure we can do it. Yeah, so thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as Margriet said, we can make this happen. I believe in that as well. And for me, it's all about representation and conversation. So let's make it happen.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you so much for inviting me and each other. I think we talk here about a movement, and moving is what we do, and we know it all very well. So I think we all have our attributes, so to say, how to conquer this era. And I must be, actually, even though sometimes it looks a bit negative, I think it's a very positive time, and I've seen a lot of new things that when I look back in my life, because I have that age nowadays, I can see a lot of very positive changes, and we're not here 15 years ago, for instance. So keep up the good work. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thoma, for organizing this. And yeah, we're not where we were 20 years ago. We're lucky to be living in this time, but we also need to stay together and keep doing the good work, because no one else would do it.
thank you very much. See you in Arnhem, see you in Thessaloniki, see you in Leeuwarden, in Amsterdam, in Caracas, and in Athens, or whatever, or in Aruba, or in Ethiopia, or everywhere. So, see you soon. Let's stay in contact.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.